Hello everybody, this is Monty with Flowers by the Bunch. Today I am going to put together an arrangement that's actually an arrangement on the Teleflora website. Teleflora is a wire service and we're not actually affiliated with Teleflora at all. We're not affiliated with any wire service, but this is an arrangement that the client liked, and so we are going to somewhat duplicate it. I want to say, I don't even remember the name of it. Anyway, it's something about pine, holiday pine, something. So we are going to put that arrangement together. I'm going to start out, so this is what we call aspidistra leaf ribbon. It is a plastic ribbon. Aspidistra leaves are, and you might have seen me use these before, but they're long, oval type leaves with a pretty point. A lot of times they're variegated, and then sometimes they're solid. This is kind of a ribbon that mimics the coloring and shades of an aspidistra leaf. So what I'm going to do, and it's plastic so it's waterproof, and I'm just going to lay it right inside of this vase. Now I usually like to use it when I'm trying to cover up Oasis. Like if Oasis is in a clear glass, I'll usually take this aspidistra type ribbon to cover up any of that Oasis. So what I did was I just rolled it up and slid it right down into this glass vase. Now this glass vase is filled with fresh water that has a touch of fresh floral food in it to help feed the flowers. So next what I'm going to do, so I just tucked it right down into that vase. So you see how it's going to cover up the stems that are going to be stuck down into the vase. That's what the picture had, some of this ribbon, so that's what we're going to use. Next what I'm going to do is I am going to take, this is leather leaf, and I am going to go ahead and add a little bit of leather leaf to my container. And it's just going to help me keep all my flowers standing up straight. I'm also going to add some fresh Christmas greens or evergreens to this arrangement. But this leather leaf is just going to help me with a good grid. So I'm just taking my floral knife, I'm cutting that leather, the stem, at an angle, and I'm just tucking it right over into that vase. Okay, so there is a pretty good grid of leather leaf, and leather leaf is just a type of fern. Next what I'm going to do is add some evergreen. So this is cedar, and I'm going to take actually just a pair of scissors, cut a stem, and I'm going to strip that stem and then tuck it right into the water and strip it. You just don't want any of that greenery to fall below the water line if at all possible. So I'm just taking it and just stripping it off and tucking it right into that water. Okay. Next I've got a little bit of pine. So I'm going to do the same. I'm just going to strip that right off. I just broke that stem and tucked it right into that vase. Now when I'm working with like this evergreen, it's a very woody stem. So a lot of times I'll just take and cut that and break that stem and then tuck it into the vase. It's hard to cut with a knife sometimes, and so that's why I'm just taking it and breaking it and tucking it right down into that vase. So there's my pretty greens. I'm going to set this to the side here. Next I'm going to come in with some snapdragons. So the picture showed white snapdragons as the line flower, so I have some really pretty snapdragons. I'm going to remove any of the foliage, and I am going to cut that stem at an angle. I'm going to place my first stem as my height. So this is going to dictate how tall the arrangement is, and quite honestly I think we're going to do one a little taller than that one. So I'm going to get a second stem, and I'm going to use that one as my height, and then it's a little tall. So I'm just going to pull it out, cut a little more. So when you're cutting your stems, always kind of check. Don't cut too much stem off, because you saw me do that with the first one. I cut too much stem off the first one, so I had to use my second stem as my height. But always kind of, I would be very cautious when cutting my stem so that you don't cut too much off. So I'm going to take that stem, and what I'm doing is kind of measuring it up to the base. So I'm holding that stem and measuring it to kind of see where I want that stem. So it's here on the counter. I'm going to cut that stem and I'm going to tuck it into that base, and there you go. That gave me kind of the height that I wanted that snapdragon. Next, I'm going to come in with some cushion mums. So I have these really pretty white cushion mums. They remind me a little bit of a snowflake. Now, there is a variety called a snowflake daisy. These are not that variety, but it does remind you of a little bit of a snowflake, kind of all those little pretty petals. I'm going to take these and I'm going to tuck them in over to the opposite side of my snapdragons. Now I'm going to take this one, I'm actually going to cut it in half. So I'm using my knife and I pulled the top out of the cushion mums, and then I'm leaving this one taller to tuck in the back of the arrangement. So I'm able to make two insertions into the arrangement from the same stem. So that's always nice. All right, so there are our cushion mums. Kind of remind me a little bit of some snowflakes. We tucked those in. We've got our snapdragons in place. Next, I'm going to come in with a little bit of Queen Anne's lace. Now, this arrangement did not call for this Queen Anne's lace, but I just thought it was so pretty, I wanted to use some Queen Anne's lace. So we got these in for another order, and it's just so pretty and lacy and kind of snowflakey. So I'm going to take my stem, cut it at an angle, and I am going to tuck it kind of deep into that base, kind of over there to the side. I'm going to take a second stem. I'm going to leave it a little longer and tuck it right above that stem. There. And then I'm going to take a third stem and put it back here on the back side. I always like to have some flowers on the back so that it's pretty on the back side too. Just in case they want to put it in the center of a table, it's pretty on the back side too. So I tucked that little piece of Queen Anne's lace back there. I've got some mums, and then there are our Queen Anne's lace. All right, so next we're going to add some red roses. So these are red heart roses. I'm going to take and remove any of this greenery that might fall below the water line, and then I'm going to take my floral knife and just remove those roses, those rose stems. My mouth won't work. The rose thorns. Now the reason I'm removing those is just because they'll bite me. It really has no, it's not going to make the life be longer on the roses or anything like that. It's just strictly because they bite. So I'm taking a little wire and I'm wiring that stem. Now I like to wire roses. Not everybody does, but I just think it makes those heads last longer. They stay standing up. I'm going to take and remove that foliage, pop those thorns off just with my little floral knife. Remove any of the petals that are bumped or bruised, and then take you a little wire, push it right in and below that rose, and just wrap it right around that stem. And tuck that right in. there's our red roses tucked in. I'm going to put one more stem. And then I have some pretty red berries we're going to tuck in. These thorns are serious. These are called heart roses, and they've got lots of thorns. So I'm just taking and removing those thorns just because they bite. Cutting that stem at an angle and tucking that right into that arrangement. Okay, so there is those flowers. Next, I'm going to come in with some red hypericum berries. So these are hypericum berries or coffee berries. I'm going to just take those and tuck a few stems in. I like a hypericum berry. I like that it has that pretty texture and it really kind of makes it look Christmassy. Okay, next what I'm going to do is I am going to take some little pine cones. So the picture showed pine cones tucked into the arrangement, and they were frosted pine cones. So I'm going to show you how I like to frost a pine cone. These are pine cones that we picked up out of the yard. And this is called Design Master Color Tool Spray. It's actually made and it'll work perfectly for flowers. You can take Lowe's paint and do the same thing with pine cones. I'm just going to take and just add a little touch of white to those pine cones. Just a little touch of white, and it's just giving a little frost to those pine cones. Now you could add glitter if you want to. You can really make it however you want to. I'm going to take a piece of florist wire and I am going to put it right through the scales of that pine cone, just like that. And I am going to twist that wire. Now pine cones kind of bite also. They have those little barbs on it and they bite. I'm going to take a wire pick. Goodness, the paint's got my nose itching. Take a wire pick and I am just going to wrap that wire right around that pine cone, and so you have the pine cone just on a stick. Now the picture showed the pine cones kind of tucked right down into the center of the arrangement. Take the next wire, run it through those scales, twist it tight, and you can do this for any arrangement, anything you want to put pine cones in. You can do it exactly like this. Just take that little wire and run it through. You can add it to a pick or you can just stick it down in with the wire. Now, in this arrangement, adding it to a pick is going to help me place it, and it gives it enough length that it hangs on. So I'm just taking that little wire and wrapping it right around that pick. And I'm just tucking those pine cones right down into that arrangement. All right. And then to finish this arrangement off, it had some candy canes in it. So these are just candy canes that you buy from the store. I'm going to take this candy cane and I am going to attach it to a wire pick. So I'm going to just take the wire from the pick and I am just going to wrap it around that candy cane. And then I'm going to take a little bit of corsage tape and I am going to tape it onto this pick because I'm afraid it's going to wibble wobble. It doesn't have enough to really grip it. So I'm just taking this little corsage tape and I am just taping that candy cane right onto that pick. So it's going to tuck in just like a flower. You're just going to tuck those little candy canes right into that arrangement. And then if they would like, they can certainly pull these candy canes out and eat them. They're not damaged. They're not opened. And it's just kind of a cute little added treat into this fun little Christmassy arrangement. Now you don't necessarily have to use corsage tape. You could certainly, if you have Scotch tape or any type of tape at home, you can actually tape it onto any kind of little stick. It's just going to help it stay in place and not wibble wobble, and it's not going to get wet. So you'll see that it's not going to hit the water at all. The candy cane itself won't. I did add an extra pick to this candy cane so that I can get a little more height into that arrangement. But there's our fun little candy canes, our pretty greenery. I'm going to finish this off with just a little more of this cedar. And I'm just going to tuck that in and give us a little bit of a finishing touch over here on the side. But there you have it. There is our fun little spin on a Teleflora arrangement. Guys, thank you so much for being here with us this afternoon. If you have any questions about the flower shop, please don't hesitate to drop those in the comments below. We hope you have a wonderful day, and we will see you all real soon. Thank you so much.